Hi, everyone. I'm John Lux. I'm the Executive Director of Film Florida, and welcome to another edition of Film Florida Friday. Film Florida Fridays are interactive conversations about current topics, initiatives, and relationship building in Florida's film, television, and digital media in production industry. Today, we're talking with a pair of exceptionally experienced script supervisors about their role on a production. In a moment, today's guests will introduce themselves, then I'll ask some questions to get things going. During that time, as always, we're going to ask everybody to keep their microphones muted and to avoid background noise. Once we've gotten through our initial questions, we'll open it up to the audience for questions and conversations. At that time, we're going to ask that people use the hand raising function so we can call on you. The goal for this is to be conversational and interactive, but we also don't want everybody talking at the same time. So please make sure to keep yourself on mute and use that hand raising function if you have something to say. We're going to ask everybody to keep their questions and comments brief in the interest of time and out of fairness to others that want the opportunity. Remember, this is not the time to pitch your company or your services, so let's keep that in mind. Film Florida Fridays are free, but we'll hope that you consider donating $20.22 for our 2022 fundraising campaign. The donation link will be posted in the chat box throughout the discussion, and you can find it on our website. And with that, I want to introduce our guests. We have Sara Alvarez and Bennett with us. So let's start there. Betty, tell us about yourself.
Hi, been on movie sets since I was 5 years old. My mother was trained by John Huston in Cuba, and she was trained as a script supervisor. So I've been on sets doing this before I can even remember. Worked on several TV shows, Miami Vice, 4 seasons, South Beach, thousands of commercials, Paul Blart Mark II, Parental Guidance, You Again, Race to Witch Mountain, Game Plan, Reefer Madness, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The Perez Family, The Substitute, and the list goes on. So I've had a wonderful career, sitting also with my mom since I was a little girl, learning this from the inside out, this career that I have. And there you have it.
Excellent. Thanks for being with us this morning. Sara, you go ahead.
My name is Sara Alvarez, and anyway, I'm a script supervisor. I started off at Disney MGM Studios when it was called Disney MGM. It's now Hollywood Studios. But I started out there as a production secretary for a company called Paradise Film Group. Anyway, and as we did our TV commercials, they would stick me in a slot wherever there wasn't a budget. So I was salary, so they would stick me in whatever slot. And anyway, I learned the business there. I was there about 5 years. And from there, I ventured off and started production management and also coordinating. But somehow script supervising always called out to me because my very first gig on my own was, I guess, a rough version of script supervising. It was taking care of time codes. But anyway, it kept following me. So eventually I learned the craft. I read books on it and studied for about a year or so, really intently on how to do the craft. And it helped that I'm bilingual, that I could script supervise in Spanish and English. So it came in handy, and people just kept calling me for it. So with every job I learned, and it helped. The production where I was at before helped. Photography helped. Learning it, studying helped, and developing the skill on the job. The experience, it helped a lot. And I would actually write down a note where I did it wrong or I did it right or whatever, or the director didn't like this or that. And that's how I learned. And I thought I was okay the moment I walked into a 7-camera infomercial. Then I knew I was going to be okay because I gasped when I saw all those cameras. But by the end of the day, I was okay. And no one's been able to trip me ever since. Good. Ever since that commercial. So I'm good.
Well, I'm glad both of you are with us today. And Betty, let's start kind of high level conceptual for everybody to give them some context. What is a script supervisor? Give us kind of the definition of it.
My definition of a script supervisor is the alliance between pre-production, production, and post-production. It is the person that makes sure during shooting that the director, the producer, the DP has everything they want covered on a shot. It is to help the actors once they have done maybe 2, 3, 4 masters. They get into a rhythm. The director says, we're now here. Make sure the continuity continues from that point on. Then you are overall continuity for every department so that every department has one person to come to for any problems. Making sure that all information needed is supplied to the production office, the editor, the camera department, the AD department. That keeps everyone in sync during a shoot. The AD, the production office, is aware that what's been shot, scheduled wise, what has been shot unscheduled wise, what is complete and what is not complete, and make sure that the uncompleted scenes, there's a list of what still needs to be done. Keep in touch with the editor at all times. At the end of the day, they give you a list of, hey, I might need an insert of this, so that you keep an insert list so that while you're shooting, they go, hey, we got 5 minutes, let's grab this insert because it's on the list. So most important, I think, is that you're the alliance between all of the departments. That's how I look at it.
And when you look at that role, Betty, what are kind of the skill sets that are needed most for someone to be successful?
Number one skill set for me, people skills. Beyond anything else. You're dealing with many layers of different personalities, creative people, and it's how you approach them. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. In 50 years that I've been a script supervisor, I have never uttered the words, this is wrong. Never. You do not do that because it gives a very negative, when you approach someone and you say, this is wrong, you didn't do this right. When you do that through a whole movie of 6 months, by the time you start walking up, they're already freezing up on you. So I never say somebody's wrong. I always say, did you mean to do this? I'm just double checking. And they're looking right at my notes, that right next to the original copy. And they go, no, I didn't mean to do that. I want to go back to the original. Okay, just checking. And that way nobody feels bad while you're there actually watching them to make sure everything's done the way they want. And another thing that happens on set is the producer, the director, and the actor might talk at any given time, forget to tell me. And if, because I don't approach saying you did this wrong, they'll say, oh, we forgot to tell you, we changed that, Betty, we're sorry. And so nobody's feeling bad during any of this back and forth of trying to keep things in continuity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard enough being on set, let alone having to deal with interpersonal communication challenges. You want to keep it clean and easy. That makes a lot of sense. Now, Sarah, let's kind of go to the flip side and look at some of the negatives. How might a project suffer if you don't have a dedicated script supervisor or a good script supervisor on set?
Well, editors aren't editors about $500 an hour or something outrageous fee for editors. That part of it is paying me is way cheaper than paying an editor, and you save time and money that way. Also, I think the script supervisor isn't only there for the editor and the director; they're there for the crew, and the crew. They ask me questions all the time. The hair and makeup comes up to me. Art department comes up to me. Sometimes the DP comes up to me and asks me questions, and I help keep them organized and just moving along. It's part of our job, and so I think we push things along real nicely, and we help the crew move along and keep them organized. And it helps a lot. When we don't have, I've been on projects as a coordinator or manager where we didn't have a script supervisor, and I've heard the crew, screaming, "Where's the script supervisor? We need her." So it does make a huge difference.
Yeah, it's one of those roles that it probably doesn't seem like it's the most important thing when you're crewing up, but then you get on set and all of a sudden you're burning money because you don't have somebody to organize on the production and then in post-production as well. Betty, you mentioned it a little bit at the open, but what crew members do you collaborate with the most when you're on set?
As she said, everyone. Number where you are mostly in the beginning of a scene, you're collaborating with the director or the AD, the producer, the camera department, and the actors. Those are your main core during a rehearsal. Then you're collaborating with every single department. I do a breakdown. I don't want to get into that right now. I'll get more into the breakdown later, but a breakdown is handed to everyone in the crew. And as things change, because you change things in a second on a set, we decided we don't want the orange, whatever, we want the pink one. You let the crew know that. So if there's a pickup shot, if we have to do a different, they're all aware at every given time what everything is needed, and no one's hunting. They're prepared for the day because they know what we're going to shoot. They know all the changes that has happened from before. And now you extend those changes to them for whenever that scene is going to come up, and everybody's aware. So it's the whole crew. I call the script supervisor their center pole of a tent where all the wires are connected, so that there's this one person everyone can go, what do I need? What do I have to do? Where do I go? So everybody has the same information. It's not coming from 7 different directions. It's coming from this one direction, this one person that is supplying the information. And if I don't have the answer, I know who to go to get it. And then I supply the answer. So everybody knows just to come to me. Come to me and I will give you the information you need. They're not hunting for 7 different people.
Good. I like the sound of that. Now, Sarah, talk about some of the challenges that you face in your position.
Challenges. I think one of the challenges is when a producer doesn't know what we do. Well, it's that's a challenge. They're not aware that we need prep time. Stuff like that. When the AD maybe oversteps a little bit, or the cameraman oversteps and they want to do your job, that's a challenge. Also, hanging on an actor's every word all day long, that energy that I need to give to an actor or the scene is a challenge sometimes. Or doing a take 72 times. I'm bored after the 12th take. So I like to just move on, but that's sometimes a challenge. Just the energy that I need, the mental energy that I need for a scene, and there's a lot of dialogue.
Right.
I don't want to drift off. I could drift off, but I want to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, I think me personally, I could think of myself being a script supervisor sounds great for the first couple of takes, and then you're kind of, I would see myself zoning out. Yeah, so I understand that. Betty, when you finish a day on set and you walk off and you say, it was a good day, this was a good day, like what goes into a successful day for a script supervisor?
I think a successful day is after, I'm going to say, let's say it's Saturday and you're in your 90 whatever hour, you're exhausted, and everyone on the crew is smiling because everything didn't mean you got everything. It does not mean that. It means that everything went smooth as it could, and that everyone felt that they got what they needed, and they were not pushed aside or not ignored. People feel they need to be acknowledged. And so when the whole crew feels acknowledged and the actors are feeling like everyone's with them and a director feels that the crew is with them, those are the most successful shoots I'm on. And again, it's not about always finishing everything. Things happen, they just do, but it's feeling that you gave it your all and you're smiling. And you go, okay, I got 8 hours of sleep for another 90-hour week, but you're still smiling. That's, to me, a successful day.
Good. Now, Sarah, you talked a little bit at the top about how you kind of stumbled into the role of a script supervisor, but how would someone traditionally get into the role? Is there a training? Is there certification? How does one become a script supervisor?
I would imagine, because I did it differently, is film school. And I'm sure there's plenty of classes that are dedicated for that. A lot of script supervisors become directors. So studying in that area would help. I read a lot of books on it. It kind of followed me everywhere I went. It followed me to be a script supervisor. People would just throw me into the position, not knowing anything. I didn't know anything, but they would throw me into that position. And somehow, since I was organized, I had the mental state for it. It came out okay. But I did read a few books on it and studied it, and that's how I did it.
And Betty, you talked a little bit of how you got into the role. I mean, was it just kind of a similar path as Sara just kind of stumbled upon it, like you talked about, or did you actually get any formal training?
Oh no, I didn't stumble upon it at all. My mom was
Right.
my mom was a script supervisor, and I just was on set since I was 5, and she would be sitting there going, and I didn't understand at 5, but she'd go, this is what you do, and this is why you do it. And you know, as you get older, and it was like it all kind of clicked in. And then once I became a script supervisor, and I was like, I think I did my first 2 or 3 not independent movies. My mom said, okay, now you're going to go study to be an editor. And I said, why? And she goes, and I did for 3 years. I was an assistant editor. And she said, because you need to know what an editor needs. You want to be a good script supervisor, you need to know what an editor needs. And it was priceless information for 3 years of assistant editing. So yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about, Sara, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, she's right, because I didn't study editing, but I have edited, and it does help, and also photography for me. I've done some like amateur videography, and it does help so much in doing my job. In the two are mutual. They help each other out. Being a script supervisor and filming, you know, and when I'm with the camera, that training of script supervising just kicks in, and just like Betty said, you need it. Just like editing, you need it. You need to learn it.
Well, Betty, a major part of your role involves reports and notes. So, you know, talk about what do those essentially do, and how important they are for specifically the editor, but also other people that get those reports.
It's important for everybody, because this is what they get. It's called a daily script report, and that's just a page of scheduled scenes, what got done, what did not get done. It has unscheduled scenes, what got done, what did not get done. It has your page count, the estimated timing, and then the actual timing, so they can kind of figure out how long the movie is going. If is it going too long, they can cut something. If it's going too short, they can add some things. Running time, scene count, so that they know how much they have left, that type of thing. Then there's the daily script notes. And that is just the notes of what you're shooting for the day. And that's just, you know, scene 7, scene 12, scene 13, scene 15, doesn't matter. And that has all the same information. And it has the camera roll, the sound roll, the time, the lens, the comments, which take the director absolutely loves. You put 16 stars around it so that the editor is really clear about this is, you know, what the director likes. And then you have a facing page. And a facing page is, imagine you have a script open like this, and this is your dialogue and everything. And you put the same information as your daily script report, but it only corresponds with the scene that's on that page. So the editor can flip open the script. The information is right there next to the scene, not just the running daily report. And this is here's the perfect example. I was on a movie set. I happened to come in early. I happened to see them about to completely destroy the set. I said, wait a minute, do not destroy this set. And they go, well, it's done. I go, no. Called the office. I said, you do see that big note in red that says scenes and not complete. And they go, oh, which is why they were about to tear down that set, because they figured it was complete. So that's why that's why I do the red with the highlighting. And still they don't pay attention sometimes, but that's the reason. So they don't tear sets down that are not done. That why
Looks like Betty
From
froze up a little bit.
part,
Sarah, did you have something to add? You look like you're about ready to jump in.
Well, no, but she's right. It's very important to make sure those notes are in detail, and that the red part is very important, and that people read it is important. That the production department reads it and act accordingly, like she says. You don't want to tear down a script before a set before it's the scene is done.
Yeah. Now, Sarah, I mean, I imagine you see a lot of scripts that come at you. I mean, when you, at this point in your career, you can probably look at a script and say, oh, this is going to be a relatively smooth day or a smooth shoot. This one's going to be a little bit more bumpy. What are some pet peeves in scripts when you see them that you could give advice to people to make sure that, you know, things are going to run a little bit more smoother from your perspective?
Well, are you talking about like the paper itself, or the way, you know what I mean? The way.
Both.
Okay. Well, as far as the script itself, my pet peeves is weird numbering. Sometimes directors or writers, they put weird scene numbers and put letters on it. So when we go to do the scene 101 Apple or scene 101 A or B or C, if it's already numbered with letters, that kind of makes it a little weird for the script supervisor and the editor. And also sometimes I just get words, no definition, no audio description, no video description, just words. So that kind of makes it hard for me anyway to do my job. And also I get stuff at the very last second of, well, we're about to shoot, here's the script. That throws me off because I'm so anal about being, doing my job and having it done correctly that it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I'm really I need to do the job right. So like one time someone gave me a script. We did lunch and then gave me a fresh new script, new words, new everything, and he hasn't called me since because I know I didn't do a good job because I just had, there was no timing, no looking over, no nothing.
Yeah.
I couldn't even, help the actor move along, even in dialogue, because I didn't study the script. So why should the actor study the script? Right. So that was a little bumpy.
Well, talk about the improvisational part of things. I mean, there's a difference between, adding a little improv into a scene versus completely going off the rails. What about projects where the script is constantly being rewritten and updated? I mean, there are obviously benefits to that because maybe you're learning things and you're making some changes, but the drawbacks obviously is you and others can't prepare. Where's that fine line where you're like, no, this is cool, this is adding to the story, as opposed to, no, this is too much, you guys are just going off the direction?
Well, I've seen even more than myself, I've seen, the art department scrambling, hair, makeup, or they're all scrambling because things changed. And especially if it was last minute, I've had projects where the director was writing overnight. And in the morning we had, blue and yellow pages and green pages. And so we're all scrambling. It's not fun. That part's not fun to scramble, to improvising is okay on the set. I could go with that. I could go with the flow. But sometimes it is a bit crazy where they are doing stuff overnight. The director's not sleeping or the writer's not sleeping. And in the morning, you've got fresh pages. So I can go with improv on set at that moment, but sometimes it's a bit much.
Yeah. Now, when you watch a completed film, not necessarily one you worked on, of course, but just you're watching film and you catch yourself finding continuity errors in projects, like, how does that happen? How is it just oversight? Or, I mean, are there other reasons why continuity errors occur?
Well, sometimes it is oversight. We can't catch them all. I mean, I'm doing literally, I'm timing. I've got a clock on my hands. I'm watching, I'm listening, I'm writing, and things get away. And it's nice that there's clients sometimes with us, and the director and other people, they'll catch stuff and help. But, you know, we're not perfect, and things get away.
Right, right. So,
John, am I on?
we lost you there for Betty for a minute, but now you're back. So that's good. Okay, we're back.
Right.
So Betty, I'm going to jump in with you. We were just talking to Sarah about continuity errors. I mean, when have you ever had one of your films where you've gone through the whole thing and you see it and you see there was an error and maybe nobody else notices except for you? I mean, like, do you just say, oh, sometimes happen, or does that eat at you when you see something like that?
I never pay attention to it. My friends are like, oh, look, oh, watch. And the reason I don't is this is the exact reason I don't. 20 takes. You ask the director, okay, the last 10 were the ones that we were trying to match to. So he goes, I like 10. Okay, so we're gonna match to 10. And then the editor decides to use take 3, which had nothing. We were building up to get to that where the actors felt, okay, I'm in the groove. They were not in the groove in take 2 or 3, but the editor decided to use take 2 or 3 for whatever reason. Everything you match to does not match. That's why you'll see a glass that's, half, in the master, it's completely drank. And then all of a sudden it's half full. It has nothing to do with the continuity person not paying attention. It has to do with they've decided to use a different take that the script supervisor was told to match to. You can't match to 7 different takes. You have to match to 1. So it's not their fault. And sometimes they use a master and they use close coverage of 20 different takes, and they just do. So you just go, it's life.
Huh.
Enjoy the story. I always say, enjoy the story.
Yeah, I never thought of that being the issue where, everybody on set agrees that one take is the good one, and then they get into post-production and decide something different. And I never actually thought about that. That's a really, really great point. Sarah, speaking of continuity mistakes, like what are some that, inexperienced filmmakers make that, you in your role could just kind of give some advice to make sure that people keep track of things?
Well, of course, there's the 180 rule, where they cross the line. Is the big one. Also, just little. I have directors that never know which way to exit when they do the over the shoulder. Which way do we go, right or left? Or just little things like that. But for the most part, I've worked with pretty brilliant directors that are on the ball. I found that women directors are more detailed and easier to work with.
Interesting.
Just plugging that in than men. But for the most part, I've had the privilege of working with some good directors. So
excellent. Good. Now, to everybody in the audience, we only have a couple more of the scripted questions. So if you have anything lined up and you want to come on camera, just go ahead and start raising your hand with the reactions button down below. Just raise that hand and we'll see you, and we'll be able to bring you on and ask Sarah or Betty a question. Betty, what's the best way for someone that's interested in getting involved in being a script supervisor to build that mentor relationship with someone like you or Sarah?
I'm going to say overall, the best way to get in the business is to PA. The reason is, best way to get in the business. You PA, and then you work hard, and then you work even harder. And then you work even harder to get noticed. Then while you're PAing, I'm going to say this in general because this refers to all departments. You start to see what interests you. Then you go to the department and say, ask, could I be the PA for your department? And then they train you. They will. Now, let's go to the script supervisor. Script supervisor.
Betty, I think we lost your internet a little bit there. So hold that thought. We're going to come back
the whole time. So pick
The beauty of technology. So we lost Betty
You
there for a
want to be
second.
trained. Did you lose me again?
We lost you a little bit there, but I think we got the gist of it, which is, first, well, you started on the PA thing
Hello,
and
hello.
then finding a department that that suits you, that you like once you're on set.
I'm
I mean,
losing.
okay. So the one thing I will say is, Betty, thanks for the unintentional plug of our last Film Florida Friday
on
that we
again?
did. That we talked about production assistants at length. So if anybody
Hello, hello.
is interested, Betty, we do hear you a little bit, but your picture is very jumpy. So we're gonna move on. I'm gonna bring on Jude. Jude, if you want to put yourself on camera, I can highlight you and bring you down. Otherwise, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
My camera's broken, so
Okay.
you won't be able to get me. But the question I have for Sarah and Betty is, thank you, by the way, ladies. This is so helpful. Thank you. But real quick, I've done script supervision for several of my indie colleagues here in the Space Coast area. And one of the problems that I've had that I didn't share at the time, of course, is that people aren't off book. Actors are not off book, or actors don't know their marks. And what is challenging when we go back after the take is that maybe they've ended on a different word because they've just, not done not memorized the dialogue. And as we all know, that is a hallmark of a professional, to know their lines and know their mark. But if you're in that situation, how do you and the director is not wanting to be fastidious about it, but surely will come back to you later and say, hey, this isn't right. What do you do? Any suggestions? Thank you.
I usually well, the camera department first should put some markers on the floor for the actors. Oh, that's one. I usually
They already do that.
Right. I usually put notes on where position 1 and 2. I usually just add where my markers are. At the couch was position 1, over by the lamp was position 2, and maybe what words were they hanging on at each marker is usually what I do to make sure that they hit their mark at each position.
The experience, can you hear me right now?
Yep, go ahead, Betty.
I've had, here's the experience I've had. I had an actor who was a TV actor, so they don't do takes. And I had to replace someone. And I had a discussion about what was going on. So what I did was I went and said, could I have 10 minutes with the actor, please? And what I said to him, I started asking questions. Do you understand what the continuity of a scene means to you? And he goes, no. So what that taught me, and I've really been a great lesson to me, is I've been able to sit down with that when I noticed they're not doing, I said, this is for you, not for me. This is so your scene gets cut beautifully and yet you look great. And once I explain what continuity really means and why it's so important, it is amazing how much better because I don't think a lot of actors are aware. And this was a very prominent actor. They just didn't do, they never did they did theater. They didn't know. It wasn't, they were excellent, but not for that portion. Once I have explained to an actor, this is so that when we cut to your close-up, it is a beautiful cut. And once they realize that, it is amazing how quick they start to do it correctly, because they just don't know. And people presume they do it, and they don't.
Huh. That's really interesting.
That's a great help. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Jude. All right, Troy.
Present it in a really lovely way so that they don't feel like you're lecturing them. Nobody wants to be, it's just, it's for you. It's to make you look great. And I want you to look great, that kind of attitude.
That's a great point. All right, Troy, go ahead and take yourself off of mute and go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah. Hi, Betty. Hi, Sarah. Hi, John.
Hi.
Going a little bit off of what John was saying about mistakes you made and everything. And can you get, Betty, Sarah, can you recall any moments in all of your experience where you might have missed a small detail or made a little mistake that kind of tailspinned into a catastrophe, maybe a little one or a big one?
No, not into a catastrophe, but I have been able to prevent catastrophes. I've where we came back from lunch and something was off, and I'm like, no, but something's off. I know that something's off, and we're starting to roll again. And the AD is antsy because he just wants to start. He doesn't want any overtime. And, he's pushing everybody along. And I'm like, no, stop. Something's wrong. Something is wrong here. Let's go to the video assist. And I'm like, but and they're pressuring me and they're harassing me. I'm like, but this is what you're paying me for. But let's stop for a second and let's go over here and let me check this. And I checked it. And of course, I become the hero when I do that. Of course, they were all harassing me and roughing me up there. But you just need to take time out and speak up so that it won't become a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Betty, any catastrophe stories on your end?
This is how I approach it. I fix a lot of problems on set. And what I do is I always go to the department and whisper in their ear and then walk away. So the reason I build that relationship from the very beginning of a movie is when I'm about to make a mistake, those departments will whisper in my ear. You build that kind of relationship because everybody's off. There's always a moment where you're just like, I'm brain dead. I can't even see I can't see what's in front of me anymore. And because of always my people think I'm not, like producers go, does she ever do anything? Because I'm as quiet as a mouse. I am literally I'm not there to make brownie points. I'm there to make a product. So I go to the departments very quietly and I'll go, don't forget. Oh, you're forgetting. Oh, don't. So that when they come to me, they go, Betty. And I go, yes. And they'll go, you forgot. Oh gosh, thank you. And that's how you build a great relationship within your crew. And that's how I like to do it because everybody goes off. Everybody, you're dealing with so many different issues in every department. It's just nice to know that everybody has their back and they have my back. That's how I like to approach a movie set.
Yeah, she's right. Because I actually had somebody, it wasn't too long ago, it was like a month ago, said, she's just sitting there. What does she do? Like, is she not doing something? Just thought I was just sitting there lounging around.
I'm from the old school. I do not sit at the monitor where the director and the producers and everything. I sit next to the camera, so that it saves so much time. Because what happened is that the actor is, you can see they're looking for. I can whisper it, and I let them know I'm going to do it. It's not like I go, guys, I'm right here, and if you're begging, I will whisper the line, and we can keep going. We don't have to go cut, start over. So in sitting next to the camera, I'm right there where I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at a monitor. So it's just so much easier. And if there's some note, I go to the director after each take and I just go, did you like it? Did you not? And let the director and producer make their decisions. My job is to mark what the decision is. I don't have to hear what they're talking. I'm there for the crew and the actors. And my job is to give the director what they want. And once I know what they want, I'm back next to the camera. But a lot of people don't do that anymore. They're 20, 30 feet away. And I'm literally 5 feet away from all the action, which is why I can whisper to everybody, even the actors.
Thanks for the question, Troy. I'm going to put you back up. And now, Betty, talk a little bit. It seems like one of your mantras is to reduce the drama on set, as opposed to some people who like add chaos to it. It seems like you want to purposely bring that level down and just help everybody breathe, right?
Yes, and it's very funny. It was funny. I was working in a house of a very wealthy family. We were shooting a drug dealer or something, and the woman had never seen a film set, and she goes, "You look like a queen bee in the middle of a hornet's nest of everybody going in 30 different, and you just calmly stay there, and you're going, don't forget this." She goes, I said, if I stay calm, I keep everything calm. It's not that I'm great. It's just that I've been on set since I was 5. So there's nothing thrown at me that I haven't seen already. So I just, if I get hysterical, the next person then bumps it up and I just stay calm and collected. And if somebody approaches me screaming, I just let them. I go, do you feel better? Yes. Okay, let's resolve this. And then that's it. That's it, because they're nervous. That's all it is. But if I get nervous with them, then everything, oh no, I try to keep everything as calm as can be. Yes.
That's true. Yeah. The sound guy always says, "Oh, I hear everybody, you know, on the except for you," because I don't say much either. I'm like Betty. I'm quiet and I'm very observant, and I whisper to whoever it is. "Oh, you forgot this. You forgot that." To hair and makeup, the hair is over here instead of over there. Or art department. Hey, the thing is turned around now. So it's just what we do. It's how we handle it. At least I handle it similar to Betty, where we just, you know, quiet and observant and whisper just to quietly. So because everybody doesn't need to know everyone else's mistake. You know?
Yeah. All right, Ray, I'm going to bring you down. Go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, both for Betty and Sarah, but something, Betty, that you mentioned earlier, and that was about what the editor might do in changing what take to use. And I did a TV film. This is about was 4 years ago, and we did one scene. It was a kind of a dancing scene, and dialogue. There's dialogue in there, and when we did about, I don't know, 4 or 5 takes of it, I think I don't remember. The director said, "Excellent, that's great. I have exactly what I need. Let's do it again and have a little fun with it." Okay, you got what you need. I'm going to go for it. So I did a couple little things different. I think I spun it around or something. I don't know what it was. That's the take they used. The one that was who made the decision on that, do you think?
If the director has the contract to be in the editing room, it's the director and the producer. Usually an editor will do like their version just to kind of show them how things are going, and then the director and the producer will come in and go, "No, they'll look at my notes and say, did you use this take with the 12 stars around it? No, let's see that one." And so then they'll go, no, we appreciate, because they just want to, the editor just wants to show them what it's kind of piecing together. Then they pick and choose and get more picky at that point.
What's collaboration?
When they're off production and they can now go to post-production, that's when they step in and get, no, hey, let's cut this 5 frames sooner. Let's cut this 6 frames later. The more picky after production.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks for the question, Ray. I'm going to remove that. And then Charles, I'm going to bring you down. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about, you're creating the Bible for continuity. What is a good way to alert people as the production is going? Because so often things happen during the production that shift. Hey, a camera angle may change, a prop gets added. How do you keep everybody on, target with kind of intermediate changes that are happening constantly?
Sarah, you want that one?
Can you rephrase the question? Maybe a little bit more simpler.
Well, you're creating a guide for people to say, hey, this is what happened. Here's where everything was. Here's what the props are. And that's fine if that's fine for an after the fact report for, hey, we're going to shoot something that links with that scene tomorrow. But how do you keep?
Well, I take pictures of I take pictures of, let's say, an elaborate Thanksgiving table. I take pictures of each, setting. I may make a diagram on my notes where everybody is, on what word they put down a cup, or just where the movements were, and that's how, at least how I keep track of things, where I write things in detail on what hand the prop was. Just writing things down is what makes it happen, for me anyway.
Now, Betty, let me ask you a little bit. I mean, you've kind of said you've been doing this a little bit of a time before cell phones were easy. I mean, before you could take a picture of a quick setup or anything like that? I mean, was it just traditional taking notes on pads of paper?
I never used computers to ever. I used pad and paper till this day. That's it. In my mom's day, it was the set photographer. You would say, could you take a, and then the next day after the film was developed, you would get a black and white film. Then in my day was Polaroid pictures. That's what we had.
Okay, the old Polaroids.
Yeah. And then I went to the what I love is I have a little phone that I can write a note on the picture in the back of the camera and then print that picture with those notes on it, and then have the clean picture and the notes on it. So it's just, it got more advanced and easier. And I have my own, I always had my own monitor. I brought my own monitor because I'm right next to the set. I don't need to be bothering anybody to bring things to me. So I had my own and my own little package and everything. And it got easier. The more sophisticated things it got easier.
Technology has helped in this case, that's for sure. Yeah. Okay, anybody else have any questions? We're kind of winding down, so if you have anything, go ahead and raise your hand. Sarah, I wanted to ask you, what's coming up for you? Anything you can share about some upcoming projects or things that you maybe have just finished that we're going to see?
Well, I've got just another common TV commercial coming up. I don't want to say the name of it just in case. You know how it is with NDAs. Just another TV commercial coming up. And most of December is still open, so I'm available for work.
Well, and I was gonna ask you, what is kind of your main source of business? Is it commercials?
Yes, I mainly do TV commercials, documentary. Every once in a while, I'll do a TV. I did a great TV show for PBS called Kids Stew. It won actually about 11 Emmys, daytime Emmys, which was, I'm really proud of that one because it was fun to do. It was a bunch of kids, and they were all brilliant and smart, and they were right on it. They knew the script, so it was a fun project to do. So that's one of my more prouder, because a lot of times we're just selling stuff, doing TV commercials, Rooms to Go or Colgate or whoever it is, but it's nice to do educational projects. It's nice to do. I also worked on it was almost like the Olympics. I think it was some type of World Games for senior citizens that come around every 4 years, and I got to work on that also and follow 3 or 4 brilliant senior citizens, women, and watch them break world records. And we did that also with PBS, and that was kind of fun to do. And I was proud of that also, to follow them around and to be around them.
Right.
So,
Betty, I know you've been doing some other stuff besides just script supervising. What do you got going on?
I am now writing and directing. I just finished 2 shorts, a feature film. I'm in production for another short, and I'm writing 2 feature films that I'm about to produce. And that's what I'm doing now. I've moved
are you doing
in direction.
Well, I was going to say, have you moved? Is that instead of being a script supervisor, or is that in addition to?
No, I am it's so much work writing and putting a whole project together and producing. And so I have taken all that wisdom and knowledge of script supervising and all the years experience on set and putting it into my projects at this
That's
point.
great. That's great. So I don't see any more questions, so I think we're going to wrap up. So thanks for everybody for being part of this Film Florida Friday. Thanks to Betty and Sarah for being with us. And thanks to all of you for joining us. Thanks once again to Christy Andrioni for helping prepare a lot of the questions for today's Film Florida Friday. We're going to be off in January. We're going to take a little bit of a break for the holidays, but we're going to be back in February. So make sure you're on the lookout for those notifications. I want to thank all of our Film Florida members for their continued support. If you're not a member of Film Florida, we hope you'll consider joining the organization at filmflorida.org. If you enjoy Film Florida Fridays, please consider donating $20.22 for our 2022 fundraising campaign. You can find that link in the chat box or on our website. Keep up with everything we're doing on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And finally, please check out the Film Florida podcast, which is on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Google, and others. Thanks for being here. Stay safe and healthy, and happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.